WWDC, or as I like to call it, what? Who? Don't care.
Whoa.
Just kidding. I actually do really care about this year's WWDC because there was a lot of interesting stuff that Apple announced, and so we have the guy from the Apple channel, Mac Address. Lots of interesting stuff announced.
Lots of stuff announced. These kind of videos they've been doing since the pandemic started just go by so fast, and they have to put everything in there.
And you are feeling that even more now because you had to do a same day WWDC video. Like, is it out now?
It's out. Yeah, we got it out at 1 a.m.
How was that?
It was great. We went to the park to film my piece of camera because they actually did invite the media this year to the Apple campus.
Right. We're just not media.
To watch the video live. We're not media, no.
See, I kind of like the online feel because they can be a bit snappier maybe, but who knows? I don't know. There's also it feels kind of weird when Apple is like, "Hey, come to our special campus." It feels kind of culty, you know? It's like work everyone up feels like an MLM sort of like.
But you mean in this, what they did specifically
all
this year?
Our devotees we're working them into a faith kind of frenzy.
I don't know if I viewed it in that sense, but
that's how I view it, and I don't like it.
I did think it was quite
You're
interesting.
just part of the cult, man. You don't know that you've been indoctrinated.
Yeah, right.
Let's not get into that. But what we should get into is what was actually announced at the conference yesterday.
Yes.
Today is Tuesday, as you know. What was there something that you were the most excited about?
Yeah, I was most excited to see the MacBook Air get updated, but I was most disappointed to see the colors the MacBook Air is available in. Because there were rumors coming out that for a while that the MacBook Air would come in similar colors as the iMac. And if we look at, the historical precedents of the original iMac and then the iBook, which came out in a couple of funky colors at the time. And it was my favorite computer. I was also, a child, so it very much appealed to that.
The first thing, so we're talking about a MacBook Air, and the first thing you want to talk about is the color?
Yeah. Yes.
What about the fact that it looks like a MacBook Pro squished now?
That's great actually.
Do we have a visual for that?
Here's one. Ding.
Nice.
All new design. Look at it. So this is the midnight color, which is probably the most colorful of it. Midnight is kind of Apple's almost black with a bit of blue.
The problem is that they're kind of,
which is, we know,
yes,
space gray of the Starlight, which I have not been a fan of Starlight since it came out on the iPhone, and then midnight. So
that's not how
it's a lot more formal in a sense than the iMac. And there's an interesting kind of, I guess, aspect to the MacBook Air where it is a little bit in this interesting kind of almost pro space where we get these performance improvements and a media engine that includes ProRes acceleration while kind of maintaining that super light, fanless, efficient design. It's funny because I've been kind of humming and hawing about the Apple Silicon transition because as we've been getting to the more performant aspects to it, I've been sort of discovering it's a bit harder to figure out and see the performance increases and also to see the benefits of Apple Silicon's efficiency because on a desktop you just plug it in the wall, it's always getting electricity. You don't need the efficiency other than keeping your house cool, I guess. But I switched to this,
and the knowledge that maybe you're helping with the environment in a very tiny, big way.
Or it's an incredible. You're getting a really efficient processor. Right. And, that's an incredible thing to think about. Yeah. But
you don't want another space heater.
Yeah, but to remind myself of what made Apple Silicon so revolutionary, I've been using this Intel MacBook Air, this 2020 model, and it is insanely slow. I am staggered at how slow and hot it gets.
Wow.
Compared to one of these things, it is incredible. It is mind-boggling. We're now at a place where this is mind-bogglingly bad.
Well, and they showed one of those graphs that they showed during the presentation. I think the M2 is I forget exactly what it was, but the leap up above the M1 version of the MacBook Air was around 30%, 35%.
So they said,
what is it?
This is an Intel laptop, but they did say that it's like 15 times faster than the Intel MacBook Air with a i5.
Yeah,
so
that's
that
crazy.
makes sense. Yeah,
I mean, like it's smart of them to show these graphs showing just how far M2 has taken like mobile performance of especially ARM-based, desktop class sort of. Not okay. I don't want to say that. People are going to call me out.
Oh no.
But like how far Apple has taken mobile laptop chips. Since the last Intel powered Macs, it's crazy.
Yeah, and Apple Silicon, I'm kind of convinced that Apple Silicon is really about the mobile laptops kind of space. The efficiency is really for making laptops better. Desktops never really haven't needed that much efficiency because usually instead of efficiency, you take the same amount of energy and have more performance out of it. But
so let's talk about M.2 specifically then for a second.
Like the drive?
Or sorry, the M2 chip. The new Apple Silicon M.2 SSD. You can plug it in your iPhone.
What a dream.
M2 has now up to 24 gigabytes of unified memory.
Yeah.
Up from 16.
Yeah, that's as a top option. Yeah.
But have you looked at what the MacBook Air can do? Can that do up to 24?
Yeah.
It can?
Yeah.
See, that's crazy.
You got the two chips against the thing. One of them now can become a 16 gig chip alongside an 8 gig chip, and then you can have 2 8s or 2 4s.
Oh, right,
That's basically how it works. I mean, I think memory was a big bugbear for people with the M1 MacBook Air, it not having enough. And so I think this at least will help satiate those who want a fanless design, but a little bit more memory.
Yeah,
and I think
I'm interested to see how well this does, because with the old MacBook Air, it at least kind of had that tapered body, so you could understand how there's some sort of like airflow going on in there. But this is just like so flat. It's crazy. It's like a tablet.
Maybe they have more material for the heat to dissipate through.
We also have a 10-core GPU now.
Yeah, 2 more cores.
2 more cores, but that was one of the big things they talked about at the presentation. They were like, okay, big thing that is going to make the performance jump here is graphics. They really wanted to talk about gaming.
Oh, you want to go to there? I think the issue with gaming is not about Metal 3 needing whatever upscaling, and it's maybe more about like the structural situation of how the App Store works and the relationship with the developers who make the games,
and like whether developers want to go through the trouble of like optimizing their games for this new chip
for Metal, for using Apple's development hardware, whatever they call it. They announced 2 developers developing games for macOS, which is No Man's Sky is going to come, and Resident Evil. The Village,
which are like
big titles,
are not games to really shake a.
No, but they've been out for a while.
Is that even a proper term to use there?
Shake a stick at?
It's not games to dismiss, because No Man's Sky, I think, like, if you haven't really paid attention, No Man's Sky has turned into one of like the coolest, best games out there right now.
Yeah, but I also have it for my PS4. So like,
I
already bought it.
Everyone, you can play it anywhere else. It's not like a super demanding game. And even the footage they were showing of Resident Evil Village, they were like, "Look how smoothly this is running." I'm like, it looks kind of.
Yeah, those games will be fun for people who want to play them on their Mac, but it's just gonna be a long, difficult slog for that.
I want to move on to the things that I really want to talk about.
It's your show. I talked about all the things I want to talk about in my video, so just watch that.
So let's just jump to the thing that like blew my mind at this presentation.
Tell me.
The thing that blew my mind was the iPad
OS
Stage Manager. Let's get a visual of this up here.
You get a visual,
because that is crazy. So now on iPadOS 16, you'll be able to not only resize windows on iPad. Like before, you could snap them to one side and do like the splits view, and you can change the proportion of what app you see or whatever. But now you have floating windows in iPadOS. The new Stage Manager feature, which is also on macOS, which has this kind of like sidebar with app previews, which I also think is kind of cool. I mean, it's basically like the Windows taskbar, but with the app preview is always open, so you can kind of see it, which I really like. And not only that, but now when you connect an iPad to an external monitor with iPadOS 16, it will actually extend your desktop. This was Jonathan. When I made some iPad videos for LTT.
I've done it too. Yeah.
I haven't done it for a while.
LTT, but
when Apple first started doing this whole like iPad, it's a desktop class machine. You can use it for pros. You can use it. I made these videos and I was like, okay, really though? And I used it as my personal computer for a while. I edited a video on it. I was like, okay, there's promise here. There's a lot of problems, but Apple has steadily added stuff. It seems like they kind of took a break for a while. And now they're like,
ta-da!
We're back, baby. The iPad is 100% just a laptop now.
Well,
it is. It's not running Mac OS, but like, look at this.
Yeah. Yes.
You take your iPad, you plug it into your, like, they played at this before. You could plug in your iPad to a larger monitor, but it was like only certain apps supported a specific external monitor.
And video.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was just mirrored.
Well, not only there was a LumaFusion would allow you to have a different view on the monitor than you had on your iPad.
Right. Yeah.
But as a default, it was just mirror your screen.
That's right. Yeah.
With these stupid bezels on the side, if it's a 16:9 monitor.
Any monitor.
This is just, this is blowing my mind.
I'm pretty passionate about the idea of the iPad kind of being a touch-first portable device. And the iPad has a small screen, and so that just brings with it certain limitations that just need to be acknowledged and accepted. So, this Stage Manager window mode, I'm not convinced that's going to be that great on, an iPad Air, 10-inch iPad Air, or 11-inch iPad Pro. Definitely not an iPad Mini.
Well, maybe, not an 11-inch.
Now, the bigger iPad, it definitely helps make the bigger iPad a lot more useful.
Yeah.
In that sort of computer desktop style ergonomic orientation. And then it's further useful when you plug into an external monitor. I mean, it really does make the iPad an option as a sole computer for some people who do still want to set it up at a desk. So I don't want to say oh, this isn't great, because also you can still use your iPad traditionally. You don't have to grab the little thing in the corner to make your apps into Windows. You can just let them. You can use the iPad like an iPad really easily, just as before.
Right.
This is sort of another layer added on to kind of bring the iPad to the kind of a next step forward. And I think that's actually pretty good. I'm curious about the Stage Manager stuff on the side and how you're going to be able, what if you cover it and how that's all going to work. But
it looks here like you can come and cover it, but
yeah.
I
guess
if
you want to grab an app, you have to shift it over.
It probably won't let you go all the way. For me, coming at those iPad videos, I was excited about the possibility of the iPad being having the capability to act like a laptop if you wanted it to, and also having the capability to okay, now I'm gonna take it off if it's dock and walk around with it with a pencil or whatever and just use it like that if I want to.
Right.
I loved seeing the idea of a tablet and the idea of a laptop just kind of smashing together into something that wasn't ugly and janky to use.
Right.
And it has kind of been janky to use because it hasn't had this capability yet, and now it does. But I hear what you're saying. I talked about this in one of my iPad videos where it's maybe it was a mistake to even try to do this. Maybe Apple should have leaned even further into, okay, we're going to make a Pro tablet that you only use as a tablet. Don't try to use it as a laptop.
Yeah.
We're going to optimize all the touch gestures. We're going to optimize everything for that experience, not try to smash it into a laptop situation.
It's really, there's a convergence that's extremely difficult to find the line and make sure you don't cross it in the wrong way and try and make it work as well. And so for instance, when the Magic Keyboard came out, when mouse support came out in iPadOS, I kind of saw the way they did the mouse, and it was very clear to me that they were not making it like a precise pointer that you find on a desktop, right?
That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, especially when the first implementation of it, which was just that big
that was
black circle.
Ridiculous. Yeah. But so they worked with it to take the advantage of some advantages of what you can do with the mouse, but also maintain the limitations of what you can only do with a finger on the software. And so that I kind of appreciated that. And so I think that's sort of what this Stage Manager experience is also just still respecting the limitations that a touch interface device brings and not trying to push it too far away from that core interaction.
Well, I will say that so while Stage Manager is more is very explicitly this is acting like a laptop now, there are other elements that they announced during WWDC about iPadOS 16 that are, may be more in alignment with what you're talking about as okay, we're going to keep it a
touch-first device.
A touch-first device, but make it better. We have this new reference mode, which I don't know how useful that'll be. I'm not a colorist, but apparently this is going to be useful for color things. Because the iPads do generally have pretty good color reproduction.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it might as well. Like, you have a really, really great screen, and then to not be able to use it for something like a video workflow, like, might as well, right? And then you don't have to have, like, 7 monitors on your desk.
We have display scaling mode, which makes, people, just gives more customization options for people, which is always good.
To some degree, that's also, I would interpret that to be to make Stage Manager more useful on the smaller iPad screen. So you're making the interface.
Yes. Those kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think it's really just.
But
to help
it might,
along.
I think it has always, like, even when I'm using an iPad.
Yeah, a little bit
just
of density,
by itself.
It'll be good.
Sometimes I'm like, I want to zoom out a little bit. I want to zoom in.
Yeah, density will be good there.
There was also, I don't see it here, but there was virtual memory swapping.
Oh yeah, I know. That's something when they announced it, I went, wow, and then kept forgetting about. But I think that's a big deal, actually. If you have too much in your RAM, then it'll put some stuff that you're not using into your SSD temporarily, just to be there, so you can reference it still.
Oh, okay.
And so it basically means that you can have Windows open, because the way iPadOS had been dealing with RAM before was it would just flush. If an app you hadn't used a while would just get flushed from your memory, and then when you go back, you'd have to reload it.
Oh my gosh, yes,
which
that
is
happens
like,
so
it's
often.
so annoying, right? But
on
that's
iOS and iPad.
That's because they never had swap in iPadOS. So this will be a big deal in just making the iPad feel less annoying sometimes to use. But it has lots of RAM now. But but it also, they have to do this for a windowing mode, because you can't just hide the app that's going to get flushed away.
The app preview is always there on the side.
Or it's you leave the windows up and it's just still running in the background. Yeah. So they had to implement Stage Manager and the windowing. They had to also implement swap memory.
I always just thought that was because they did that killing apps in the background thing because iPhones and iPads can get away with having
lesser memory.
Well, that's the reason why they can get away with not having very much memory, because they're so good at managing the background stuff.
Them being good at managing the background was you have to reload this app, and you're no longer in the place you were in where you on the feed.
Yeah, exactly. Scroll all the way down again. Oh, you know what? I was wrong.
What were you wrong about?
The thing I was most excited about from yesterday's announcement.
Tell me. Show us.
There's a weather app.
Oh.
There's a weather app for iPad now. iPad didn't have a weather app before, and now it has a weather app.
I know. I actually was really excited about it.
Everyone's freaking. People are rioting in the streets because they're so happy.
But there's still no calculator.
Okay, moving on from iPad, I think, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there was something about collaboration, freeform. This like shared browsing thing is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Shared tab groups.
But like everyone has to have an Apple device.
Right. Yeah.
Like there were a lot of these things, collaboration and SharePlay and all that sort of stuff that like it was very much for like remote work and the pandemic. And all I could think about was like the controversy Apple was having, I don't know, a month ago, where their employees were like, we don't want to go back to the office.
Yeah.
and then Apple's making these features to make remote work, more convenient.
Should we talk about iOS? Oh, and also about iPadOS. It was cool to see them talking. Well, they've talked about desktop class apps a lot in the past, but now they're like, oh, there's an API, so now you can make your app.
I'm still a little confused about what that means. I think I have to investigate that a bit further.
I think they're like making it easier for developers to incorporate like things that you would naturally expect to have in a desktop app, like native renaming, undo, find and replace, customizable toolbars.
Yeah.
Whereas before it's like you get the app and that's kind of what the app is, and now there's probably going to be more customization and stuff.
I will just say this: iPadOS has finally earned its name with this release. I think that's probably would be the best way to sum it up.
It's super big of you to say that.
It's earned its name, and I think that's laudable. I think now we're seeing the iPad become its own thing, and I think that's a good thing. And even when I've been doing videos about iPad, I've been talking to people, and they're like, "Yeah, I use the iPad as my main computer now." Like Nicole.
Really?
Yeah. The whole video is like she got an iPad Pro a couple years ago. She didn't really use it that much.
Not for editing.
No, not for editing.
Because Nicole's an editor.
She has things she does on it, crafty things, workflows. She's developed these workflows to make it work, but she switched to using the iPad as her personal computer at home.
I mean,
and so I think this will just help people who are already in that process, and the power to them.
The thing that will always keep me back from like getting super truly excited about the iPad, because of, like, it's cool to see products change like this and evolve.
Yeah.
But the thing that will always keep me back from being like, oh, this is an amazing product that Apple has made, is the fact that they're just so freaking expensive for what they do. Like, you can get, like, in order to have an iPad, wait, if you're buying an iPad to use it as a tablet, Sure, you don't need to buy any accessories. Maybe like, especially the smaller ones, buy an iPad mini, buy the iPad, whatever it is, 9th gen or whatever it is, the base model.
Yeah.
But if you want to use an iPad Pro or an iPad Air as your computer, you're also going to be wanting to buy the keyboard attachment and maybe some other things. Yeah. And at that point, now you're looking at like $1,600, $2,000.
Hey, it's the same price if you were to get a Samsung with the same sort of performance and accessories. It's
a Samsung tablet?
Yeah.
Sure. I guess it's more about tablets in general, I guess.
Yeah.
If you want to use a tablet as your main computer, you're paying a premium for the privilege of like trying out this cutting edge form factor that is actually not very cutting edge, but been around for a long time. You know what I mean? I'm upset about it.
But now, are you less upset now that the iPad is more capable, so it's actually coming up to its price point?
I think it's just like, I'm thankful for the people with a lot of money who will go and buy these products so that Apple keeps, fiddling around and innovating. Okay, I want to talk about iOS because we've basically talked about most of the other stuff.
Really
CarPlay's new. There's going to be new UIs for CarPlay.
I'm mad about that.
Blah, blah, blah.
I'm so deeply...
watchOS, they've got this drug scanning thing now, which is interesting but also scary because then you're sending your prescription information into the cloud.
But they protect your privacy.
Yeah, and they also scan your photos for child stuff.
Right. I guess they're still doing that. I can't remember.
And they also, Apple announced at WWDC, everyone was so excited about it, they announced that they invented a new smart home standard. In collaboration with blah, 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 other companies, blah, 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 we created a new standard, Matter.
I didn't interpret that. I
didn't interpret that way because I knew that they didn't make Matter, but it kind of sounded like that.
Oh.
And I was like, is there a joke here? Not really. Let's move on.
The joke I made was there were some things they referenced that I was like, aren't these features already in your operating system? Like maybe slightly improved. So for instance, when they talked about sports, which was fascinating. Sports. Look at all the sports we care about. The person literally said, you can ask Siri about sports scores, and I thought, yes, I remember that feature being announced 10 years ago. Yeah. And then they're talking about this iCloud photo library for families, and I thought, doesn't iCloud have like a shared photo album feature that also was announced 10 years ago?
Yeah,
sure
and also when they were talking about all this stuff where it's like, choose who you share with and like automatically, I got it here. I automatically like upload photos to shared libraries and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, Google Photos has this.
Yeah.
This seemed like basic stuff, and I was like, what, you didn't have this already?
Yeah.
iOS. Let's talk lock screen widgets. We don't have much time.
Yeah, I know we
gotta hurry up.
Okay, here's my thing. It's great. I love that you can change the font of the clock. They do this cool thing where they figure out what the subject of your picture is, and they can hide the clock a little bit behind, a person's head or something.
Yeah,
like that.
That's kind of cool.
That's part of the whole machine learning stuff they've been adding to iOS, which we could get into if we really wanted to. But basically, the widgets are like watch complications, is what kind of was my take on them, and then notifications are now kind of this like stacky thing on the bottom. They don't take
so it can do this thing where it does a portrait mode thing. I saw Quinn Nelson posting some examples.
Yeah, the machine learning's pretty neat. Like I've been curious. We haven't talked much about the hardware of the neural engine within Apple Silicon, and it's been added to A series chips for a couple of years now, and it was always there. And they said it can do stuff, but we never really knew what it can do. And clearly Apple was sort of leading up to now this sort of thing. So it's really interesting to see how this sort of processing will be able to be used in kind of the real world, so to speak. And so right now we're seeing it in terms of like scanning text from video and photos, which is now available, and also now even figuring out what the subject is in an image and taking that out, which I think is really great. I'm also curious in terms of the neural engine, zooming out to maybe the Mac, to see how developers are able to access that and take advantage of that.
You want to see neural engine stuff being used on Mac
like
stuff.
in Photoshop, like if the iOS operating system can take the subject out of a photo, like wouldn't that be that? Then you open up Photoshop and it's this big faff to do the same thing. Like, wouldn't it be nice if that hardware accelerates Photoshop? And so Adobe
makes sense.
It makes sense. So Adobe has to figure out how they're gonna, and Apple has to make sure the API is there so that that Adobe can take advantage of it. I just don't know where we're at with that.
I don't think there's anything else. I mean, obviously, we didn't talk about absolutely everything that they announced, but
you can't. They announced too much. This is why I want to go back to live stage stuff, so that they are a little more judicious about what they choose to show us. Your iPhone could be a webcam now. That's
Yeah,
pretty nifty.
that was
really
the other
great.
big thing I wanted to say, which is
Scheduled
kind of
send and mail, a dream. Oh, I'm curious what sort of stands people are going to get and what that's going to do to like the hinge sort of situation, having all that weight on the top.
I mean, you're not going to have it on there all the time.
It will make a difference, but it'll be convenient. It needs to be like easy to put on and stuff like that. So I'm curious how that workflow is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
They had this thing where they're really taking all the cameras of the iPhone and doing like a desk mode camera view from the ultra wide and some crazy, and also center stage with your iPhone camera. So like really
that was cool to see.
Really going above and beyond.
I think I mean honestly, webcams have really come a long way, fueled by the pandemic probably, where people were like had to sit in front of these things for hours.
Yeah.
And Google has this now in Meet, and various other chat apps have it where like there are now like virtual lighting effects where if you're backlit or whatever, it can like dim the background and brighten you up and which you can do with this iPhone as webcam. So being able to use the like really great camera on your phone as a webcam just in an easy way, I think that's really handy. But you'll have to buy a mount, and that'll be a bit annoying. Oh, I forgot my other favorite thing from the. This is my actually favorite thing from WWDC. It was the dictation that the keyboard stays open when you use voice to text.
Dictation was also announced at iOS 6 in 2012.
Yeah, but I saw this and I was like, what are you talking about? This wasn't a thing already? Like when you use dictation on an iPhone, the keyboard just goes away?
It's even worse than that. Sometimes you accidentally hit the dictation button when you're just like fiddling with your phone, and then it goes bing, and you don't have the keyboard, and you have to wait for it to load up, and then you have to hit the done so it doesn't.
That was so funny to me. And he's like, and now I can just seamlessly switch between voice to text, and if I made a mistake, I'll just fix it with my keyboard. I'm like, it's 2022.
Yeah, it's a long time coming.
This is crazy. Anyways, so that's basically it.
Yeah. There's a lot.
You have to go to a shoot.
Yeah, where I actually am going to be comparing the iPad to an Android tablet.
Oh, well, which Android tablet?
A Samsung Galaxy Tab S8. Samsung, when
is
it comes
that the new one?
Yeah.
Okay.
When it comes to tablets, Samsung is just the only Android tablet, essentially.
I did the short circuit for the S8.
Yeah, everyone got mad at you for not showing
Yeah, they got mad at me because I forgot about DeX. But honestly, no one talks about DeX, Can you really blame me? And like, I wish I did because all the people telling me to check it out I was like, you're right. DeX is really cool. Like, it's basically like it puts iPad to shame. I've used DeX in the past on some like phones, like it's been years, but I just thought it was really cool how it's like, okay, this is Android.
Are you talking about like DeX onto an external monitor, or DeX was on the screen?
I didn't know that you could do DeX without an external monitor.
Right.
So I definitely wish that I could have tried that out. But like the fact that Samsung has had this feature and they've kept supporting it, and I guess making it better because there are people who actually care about it.
Yeah.
In the background for a while is really cool. Like I think Android has the capability to serve as a desktop operating system.
I wasn't bowled over.
What's that?
I wasn't bowled over.
Well, you're never bowled over by anything.
No,
that's
I guess
not
I'm a
made
curmudgeon. I'm such a curmudgeon.
by the jobites. Jobsites.
No, that's not how I am.
Jobsians. I'll make a big faff about Android all the time. That's faffy man. Okay, you have to go to a shoot. And
yes, I do.
And I don't care about Apple
you have
at
to
all.
edit this. Ding,
no,
ding.
I don't have to.
Oh.
I edited the last one, but Hoffman will do this one. Love you.
Love you, Hoffman.
Okay, thanks for watching, guys. We're going to do more TalkLinked more regularly, as you can see. Subscribe.
Rate and review.
And put in a good word for us with the receptionist. Subscribe to Mac Address.